Now that I've rated the photos and added keywords to them, I'll make some adjustments to them in the develop module. Let's start with the hockey player. So we'll select that image, hit D for develop, and the first thing I'll want to do is raise the exposure. It's a little dark. A little more, I think that's about right. And let's crop it. We'll hit the R key to select the crop tool. And there's the crop tool up here. And we'll keep him just a little left of center. I think that'll be okay. R again. And we have this hockey stick poking in here on the left. Let's remove that with the spot removal tool. And it's on heel. It's got a little bit of feathering to it. We'll just brush over the stick. And Lightroom will select some similar pixels, or at least what it thinks are similar, somewhere in the image. And if I hit the H key, it will show me what it's chosen. So that's pretty close, but there's a shadow there, so let's get over here to where the ice is clear and replace it with that one. And that looks good. H key again hides the spots, and we can click on the spot tool to close it. Now let's set our blacks and whites. We can look at the histogram here and see that we have room on both sides to increase the whites and the blacks. Start with the whites. And this will help hide that spot we fixed as well. And I think we can stand at least that much. And it still doesn't show anything clipping, so that's fine. And if you wanted to check clipping, you can point your cursor at the white and hit the Alt key, and the screen turns black. The more you move it up, now you start to show clipping. So let's stay down here. And the blacks, I'll zoom in on his sweater. I can see the folds in his sweater, but I'd like to see them a little better, so let's increase the blacks just slightly. I think that'll do. Now this background's a little distracting. I'd like to minimize it as much as possible. Let's add a gradient. And the gradient is set to exposure. So we'll start at the top here and hold the Shift key. That'll keep the gradient level down both sides of the image. And we want to get it down to the boards. And we can move it down to there. And I also want to reduce the amount of space it's taking to add its graduations. So let's pull this down and then reduce this. Oops. And there we go. And it looks about level. Let's just check. That should be okay. So we'll just hide the gradient, and it will have added the gradient to the player, to his face and the helmet. So I'd like to remove that. So we'll select the brush tool here in the gradient, and down here in the brush panel, we'll select erase. Let's zoom in to him. Move around here in the navigator panel, and we can increase the size of the brush with the bracket keys. The right bracket key will increase it, and just remove that gradient that we added. from his face and his sweater. And we can remove it from the helmet as well. And we'll decrease the size of the brush with the left bracket key and just try and get up as close to the edges as we can of the helmet. And that's pretty good. Zoom out again. And I think it could stand even to lower the exposure a little more. Let's go back to where we were at the original, about a stopover. I think that looks a little bit better. And another thing I would do with this image, since we have these big blocks of color, the yellow, the blue, the red on his sweater, is let's give it a little bit more saturation. And I think maybe 15 points, 20 points should be enough. Okay, now notice too, it's taken, let's see with the I key, it's taken at ISO 2000, which makes it a somewhat noisy image. So let's reduce that noise. And while we're down in this section of the panels under lens correction, I also like to remove chromatic aberration. And under the detail panel here, sharpening and noise reduction, we'll zoom in and just watch the background and add some noise reduction. So yeah, I think anywhere in the low 30s should be okay. Zoom out with the Z key. Now we can also add some sharpening, and in this image for sure I just want to sharpen the edges. Partly because it's so noisy, but I think that's all we need to show some definition on. So if I hold the Alt key and point at the masking slider, this overlay is created and it shows me what will be sharpened. So anything in white will be sharpened. So we just want to get the edges of the image. I think that'll be okay. And if we zoom in, oops, let's just go Z, we'll zoom in and apply the sharpening. And we just need a little, I think that'll be okay. And finally, I would add a slight vignette. Not enough that it's really noticeable. I'd say about -10 points, -11. And I think that's okay. So let's see before and after. So there's before. And we'll hide the side panels. And hit the backslash key again, and there's after. And there you have it. G to go back to the grid view.